How you doing? Gotta check. Is video and audio and everything okay? Hang on a second. Let me do a little more light here. Open it up some. Here we go. Hello. 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 Today we're going to talk about the GPHG. So, um, so let me ask you: is the sound okay? Is the video okay? Are you okay? Hi, Dominic. How you doing? Everything's working. That's good to know. Hi, Javi. Good morning. Bonjour. Hey, neighbor. We're having looking like a nice day today. We're not gonna get bombed by thunderstorms or fried by heat too badly. Okie doke, guys. Here's what I want to talk about today. When I first started collecting watches, there was incredible amount of noise of which watches were good watches and which watches weren't. And this is around about almost 10 years ago now that I started taking a look at the, hey, John. Yeah, the starting to take a look at the GPHG. Hey, Goldfinger. And the reason I did it, I figured, well, let's see who is involved in a GPHG. And they had all these people who were watchmakers and retailers and some kind of expert or another. And so I thought, wow, okay, these guys ought to know. I mean, if somebody is having a video and they're selling watches at the same time, I mean, sure, yeah, they can be, I guess, somewhat objective, but it'd be a hard time, I think. Hey, Washington, how's it going? John, good to see you. Heating up here in Miami. It'll heat up, but I tell you now, I think it's only being mid 80s or something. The big thing is the humidity has gone down. We had this terrible humidity. How you doing, Tim? You're back in town. You mean they let you back in town? They didn't stop you at the border? Tim, I thought for sure that would happen. I called them. Let them know. Say, hey, Tim's coming back. Get him. Stop. Okay. Well, let's start with an overview of the current competing watches. Okay. And we'll look at the categories, and then we'll look at some sample watches. Okay. Hey, Rancher, how you doing, man? Okie doke. Hang on one second. And what we'll do is we'll start with the categories. All right. Okay. Now, here are the categories. Now, this year, they have some new ones. The new one is this one that's called Time Only. And that's sort of is one that I mean, it's like time only means no complications. Basically, it's a 3-hand category, but 2 hands would be okay, I suppose. But I think even if you had a power reserve indicator, they wouldn't allow you in that one. The other ones are pretty much, I think, the same they've always had. And they dropped one category this year, and that's the clocks category. They used to have a clocks category. So this year they have ladies complication, and then in the third slot they put time only. Perhaps that was they figured, okay, well we'll have men's and women's watches here, or anybody's watches. Then they have men's watches, men's complication, iconic, whatever that is, tourbillon, calendar and astronomy, mechanical exceptions, chronograph, sports. Sports was out for a number of years, then it came back again. I'm glad it did. I think they had one called divers, but sports is more of a sort of a general one for different kinds of sports. Then they have jewelry, artistic crafts. Then they have the petite aiguille, and the petite aiguille is one for watches that are under 10,000 but over 3,500. And then at the bottom they have one called the challenge category, and these are from 0 to 3,500 Swiss francs. So those are the categories. So let's just take a look at a random category. We'll see some. I'll just pick any one. Here's one that looked interesting. I'll pick it. Let's see. We'll see about this one. This one is called the Lyrique Etude Guilloche. And got a little movie that goes with it. Let me see if I can bring it up here a little more and see the information. It's steel. The bracelet strap is leather. It's ostrich leather. Manual winding, mechanical. Power reserve is 40 hours, 21,000 VPH. And then it's got hours, minutes, and seconds. That's time only. And then the dial finish is guilloche on metal. Water resistance is 30 meters. Size is 39 millimeters, and thickness is 10.4 millimeters. It's a little thicker than the last one that this company, who I don't know much about, happened to have. Okay, so let's talk about that in terms of like what do we know about any of these? Most of the collectors collect men's watches, so most of the collectors are men. We'll look at some women's watches too. But when you look at this time only category, I mean, I thought, well, maybe guys are this is murderer's row. We had hoped to have a chance here. We'll see if we do or not. I think one thing we can stand on is a unique movement. But I checked out some of these Baron, Bernhardt Letter. These guys are monsters. Chopard, Chronoswift, Chapek. These guys, I looked at all of them, and there's Fabien Pellet, and the thing of it is they pay attention to movements as well. Girard Charles, I did a review on them, and I don't think I think with the movement they may not be at the same level, but it was a watch I really liked. H. Moser, I like everything about H. Moser. That doesn't help. J.N. Shapiro, he's sort of an interesting guy. He had his big thing is the guilloche, and he's got a Rose engine, and he does all. That's one thing. I think that's a strong suit on that. Kadoki, I was really surprised to see that. This is basically the basic Kadoki watch with hours and minutes only. Just a nice watch. Louis Vuitton, there's Louis, Messina Lab, Ming, Parmigiani Fluier. What a beautiful watch. This guy right here, Costa Hayashima. This guy's one. I think he's one of the new people in the independent group. Titan, I don't know, Venezio. Those are ones that, at least as far as that is concerned. But I mean, it's like this is a tough category. This is a group. Now the men's have traditionally been the toughest, so it's still tough. And one of the watches, Armin Strom, that I'd really talked about a lot, I think is always a good RDA. Poor RDA never wins, and they have some really interesting stuff. Beauvais 1822, Recital 12, Bulgari, Octo Finissimo Ultra Platinum. You look at these Chopard. Chopard's got an open face on that one. Fears. Watch. Gary, Grand Seiko, Jaime Ahsoka. These are all like, holy smoke. Hublot, the people love to dump on Hublot. They're doing some interesting stuff. Some of these watches I haven't heard of. Hotherchus watches. I don't know what that is. That's Ornament Nouveau. HYT. HYT sort of died, then it came back again. They're always interesting. WC. This guy right here, Kalich Klaya, something like that. It's a German company, and they are good. Parmigiani, a beautiful Parmigiani, the Toric Petite Seconde Platinum, Piaget. Any one of these watches. This is an interesting brand. Raymond Weil. I had a Raymond Weil years ago, and they threw in an ETA and called it a day. I think they may be getting some better movements in there. I don't know. Robot, that's an interesting one. I had a little review of that. Triobe, and then Voet and Lannon. These guys, Voet and Lannon, pretty reliable winner on that. Okay. Hang on a second. All right, so let's see what your views are on this. Hey, John. Okie doke. Hey, Rancher, what do you think of this, Rancher? Rancher deleted. Dominic, E2 number 2, very well done. Hi, Caesar, how you doing? Yeah, right. You're starting to get into the dad's jokes. Hey, Javi, how you doing? Great variety of brands this year. No kidding. So let me ask you. Okay, here you got this. All of these decisions. Here how the Grand Prix decisions are made. They're about somewhere in they have this thing called the Academy, and there are about 900 members in the Academy. And so the Academy, I think they name 6 watches from each of the categories. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, pick these 6 watches. And with these 6 watches, then what we'll do is we'll put them up as nominated. Well, nominated is in and of itself is quite a feat. I think it's back in 2007, Rolex had 2 of their watches in the running, and neither one of them made nominations. A similar thing happened to Larique in 2022. Clerical errors. So anyway, so in terms of this being something, so somebody comes along and they're new at it, and all they know about is Rolex and maybe Omega, something like that. And they say, well, what should I do? And one of the things I always say is that, hey, check out the Grand Prix winners and even the nominated watches. You'll find some really good watches, I think. Now, let me hear what you think on that. Hi, Dino. Yeah, Tim, I I think I don't know of how one would set things up without some politics. First of all, it's the Grand Prix de Genève. Okay, that's Geneva. And Geneva, in, naturally in Switzerland, and is one of the main watchmaking centers in Switzerland. There are other ones in the Jura Mountains and let's see, La Chaux de Fonds, and then there's the ones over in Fleurier, and then there's um, H. Moser's over by the German border. I think it's a German-speaking part of Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so you have this, but starting off, if you take a look at the academy, or what's called the academy, and members of the academy, you got a pretty wide spread from all over the world, perhaps overrepresented, if you want to call it that, from Switzerland. I would agree with that. Um, and there have been some watches that I have no idea why they're not treated better. For example, I don't think Moritz Grossmann has ever even made the nominations. And so, I'd say not Marie Grossman, Moritz Grossman. I'm thinking of Christine Hutter, so it must be Marie, but it's not. It's Moritz Grossman. Fabulous watches. And then for a while, Longa was taking every prize, and then all of a sudden they seemed to be forced out. So what are your views on this? I mean, what do you guys think? How do you who do you say? Okay, look, you're a new at Watts collection. Okay, where do you go look? Where do you go find out about watches? I mean, I don't know of a better source. Like I said, I go watch Archie or something like that. But I don't know. Rancher, do they see the Larique's subscription model as a threat? Well, they may. Okay, they may. I've done everything possible, and talking about Larique, that it's like 100%. It's more Swiss than any other Swiss brand, I think. Not only is it Swiss, it's mainly Geneva. I think about the only thing that wasn't made in Geneva uh, was the case, and that was by Boudin, Lannon, and Caton. And now that Caton's gone, I don't know. But I don't know. They might say, "Wait a minute, you guys figured out a way how to get your mitts on a really expensive watch without being too expensive," because we went directly to the watchmakers, the case makers, the dial makers, the hands makers, all of them. And I don't know, they got. One thing about Shapiro, what Shapiro is doing, he's sort of touting his stuff as all American. He got a sort of we're bringing back American horology. Well, Roland Murphy's been doing that for quite some time. But still, I think that's sort of an interesting move. Having finished the book that Dominic gave me, the one about the interrupted time, and about how Waltham Books dominated. I mean, literally dominated. This is in the 1870s, and how the Swiss had to come and spy on Waltham to see how they did it, and then they took it home with them, and then they adopted it to the Swiss culture, and did a very good job, I might add. And so, are we seen as it's those Americans again? They can have another Waltham. Well, you got a bunch of guys. None of us are making any money on this thing. Nobody's being paid. We're all doing it, for voluntarily and trying to, and succeeding. God knows over learning more about watchmaking than we ever imagined. So yeah, it's sort of a thing. Okay, let's see. Tim thinks they see it as a threat. I'm hoping they don't. Of course, that doesn't hope won't help me too much. What we've been trying to do is point out how much we bring into the Swiss economy every year, which is really we're spending about $1 million a pop on all of the for every watch that we produce. And like I said, it's all goes into the Swiss bank's account. Of course, dealing with Swiss banking is that's sort of like that. Watch it out. What next? Who brings the largest briefcases of euros? Oh, I think, Mark, I do think they accept euros as whistle. They certainly accept dollars. Hey, Timothy, what you got? New to this topic, does GPHG disclose the very scientific criteria judges are supposed to follow in identifying winners? Do they provide summaries? I'll tell you what to do, Tim. Yeah, if you go to the gphg.org, and they have and quite in very fine detail, they list everything that is used for criteria for all of the different categories that they have. I mean, it's like, one thing, what they might do is that they might have a sort of a price bracket, okay, within each of the categories. Because let's see, 1 second, let me take a look here. I'll let you guys share too, just to give you some ideas. Okay, let's take a look at Kari Voutilainen's watch for a second. And that goes for, where is it? 134,000 Swiss francs. Okay, he's in the time only category. Now, if the question is what would you rather have? I think, people say, well, I'd rather have that one. Now, let's take a look at some other ones just in the same category here really quickly to give you an idea of the range. I think this one is, okay. Now, this one is only 6,400 Swiss francs. So, in other words, the sales tax, this probably wouldn't pay the sales tax or the VAT on Voutilainen's watch. Okay, and they're both in the same category. And this is sort of an interesting watch. But the difference between 132,000 and 6,400, I mean, is really what's this? what have I done? Uh-oh. There. Okay. Hit the wrong one. Okay. So you have, I get this thing straightened out. There. Okay. So you have these are within the same categories. Now, if you want 132,000 Swiss francs for a watch versus about 6,500 for a Swiss watch, it's a huge difference. Among other things, the amount of resources that you can afford to use if you're going to sell it for 134,000. Now, there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying anything that Woot and Lannon is doing is wrong. There's not. He has in his watches have no problem selling for these high prices because people value them so much because of the horology and so forth. So I don't know. The reason again, let me throw this out again. I can't think of a better source. I mean, I found a great, I tell you about experience, and I reminded of a quote by Oscar Wilde. He says, "What we call experience is really is an accumulation of our mistakes," and I think he's right. And it's a lot, but to me, it's a lot better to look at least what sort of the people who know a lot more about watches and horology than I do is learn from them, and that's why I like GPHG. And you go in there and you have all of this information about it. Uh, you know, one thing I wish they in movement they have, whether it's automatic or manual wind. They got the power reserve, and then they have the frequency. Those are the three things that the minimum that you have to put in there. And there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of time there's a lot of fudging about not putting very much in, especially those who are trying to disguise that they're really using some cheap movement underneath a lot of talk. I don't know. Let's see what you got here. I think they believe that we'd bring 10 times that much if we didn't have our subscription model. Yeah, but the thing is, that's I think you're right, Rancher, but here's the point. The people in our group probably wouldn't spend that much money on a watch. I mean, the watches we get and what we pay for them is basically what it costs to manufacture them. We're not paying, there's no profit, there's no advertising, there's no warehousing, there's none of the other things. We pay for screw ups and things like that. But otherwise, that's why most watch companies have something between 6 to 10 times what the production, what the manufacturing cost is. And so they have a profit and this and that and everything else. They spend a lot of money on marketing. We don't spend anything on marketing. So, that's sort of the big advantage of it. Local hero. I add, just like any committee, they don't always get it right. Well, I mean, wait a minute. Let's get away from this. Committees are bad. I used to think that. I don't anymore. Bad committees are bad. I think the kind of committees that are bad is trying to make everybody happy. That's not a very good committee. I think that groups that get together with a set of skills, because I've worked with a lot of committees, and I've worked with some excellent committees. And I've worked with some where there's, some loudmouths and stuff like that don't do any good. But the idea, sort of the Ayn Rand, dreaming model, doesn't have a lot of validity. for at least having experience with it. But sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes you get a guy, but right now there's a certain watchmaker whose name I will not mention. Well-known guy, great horologist, terrible businessman, terrible, really terrible. And the problems that he's facing right now are pretty major because he thought he knew about everything. And so with a good team together, with people knowing about these different things, you can really get a lot of stuff done. So, Ed, I know that there's sort of a knee-jerk thing, committees are bad. I don't think so. Good committees are good. Of course, bad ones are bad, but so are bad people who think they know everything and they don't. I'll tell you one thing I've learned with Larique. I've depended on a lot of different people who are involved, and were not for their input of ideas and knowledge and just flat out intelligence, I don't think we would have gotten anything done. Okie doke. Next year they'll be having the Tim only category, which only features brands and models sprinkled by the 1916 company. That Tim, okay. Looking at your outfit, are we taking you away from your model train? This is my satellite shirt. Ta-da. Committees aren't bad and can have good intentions, but they're not infallible. No, they're not infallible. No, I didn't mean that, but I mean it's sort of by the same token. This is the kind of committee I can't stand. There's one person who doesn't really contribute a lot, but he or she sits there with a little notepad and says, "Okay, I like your idea. I like your idea. Or you had a good idea." And she wants to include everybody, and then they end up with this mess. No. That's terrible committee thing. What good committee is that you've got people who are willing and understand the value of cooperation. They'll get a lot more done than like the dictator kind of stuff. Hey, Robert, how you doing? Frying pan time. How are judges selected? Are they all from Switzerland? The answer to that is no, they're not, neighbor. Alec, you have, okay, you got the 900, what are they called? The Academy, 900 members of the Academy. They get first of all, they look at all the watches and they say, okay, I think these 6 from this category should be in nominations, and then this 6 and this 6 and so forth. Okay. And so then they go, and then they have the judges are made up of people generally who have they have won grand prizes before. They're involved in the watch industry. They probably are heavily weighted more from Switzerland than anywhere else. You can see it. I mean, the whole thing is totally public. If you go to the gphg.org, you can see everything. You can see all of the members of the Academy. You can see who the judges are going to be this year, and the judges change from year to year. So, that's why I say I can't think of a better source, even though, anyway. Well, Rancher tells me it's frying pan time. I'll be in big trouble if I don't skedaddle. Anyway, guys, we'll talk more this afternoon. Rancher has a great topic for me, and that's what watches would you like to see this year? And we can look at that also too. I'd like to like to talk a little about the Grand Prix picks that will be starting up as soon as, I think perhaps I can get them going today. Every year we have a Grand Prix picks. And what we do is that you pick we have 3 prizes, and each prize is a watch. Okay, they vary whatever watches I happen to be able, somebody sent me to review or something, and so 3 people win. One for having picked the most watches that make nominations. The second, these aren't first, second, third prizes. The prizes are all at the same level, but the second one we give out. Then the second one is for the most picks for winners, and then the third one, not third prize, but the third one is who picks the Grand Prix winner. And we've done this. This is about the 5th or 6th or 7th year we've done it, and every year we have these. We have 3 winners on all of them. Anyway, hey Frampton, how you doing, man? Anyway, guys, gotta run. Hope to see you later. Take care.